Green Lantern number 13, written by Jeff Johns, art by Doug Mahnke. This is the technical start of the Rise of the Third Army story. I mean, there was a prologue a few issues before this, but it seems that every Green Lantern book is going to be telling its own independent story. So this is the first part of Green Lantern's Rise of the Third Army tale, or whatever you want to call it. So we open up DC super early in the morning, and President Obama is getting a briefing on who all the Green Lanterns are from Amanda Waller. And we get that, hey, we know Hal Jordan, we know Guy Gardner, we know John Stewart. We really like him. He's a cool one. And we don't know this fourth one, but we think he's either an artist or a video game nut. And then Amanda has to lay out the fact of, now there's another one, because the Ring went and broke some guy out of Gitmo, and his name is Simon Baz, and we think he's a terrorist. And Obama's like, I thought that the Rings picked good people. And Amanda's like, I don't know. We don't have any oversight with them. We have no idea how they pick things. But regardless, we tracked him heading north. We think he was heading back to the United States. But outside of that, no idea where he is. And Obama's like, all right, well, call the Justice League, because clearly we are outclassed if this Green Lantern is an actual terrorist. So call in the Justice League. So then we cut to the Florida Keys. Simon, he's unconscious. He's having a little flashback to the night that his brother-in-law and him were doing some illegal street racing. Supposedly the one that ends up with Nazir, his brother-in-law, getting into a medical incident. And when he comes to his ring, puts him in a Green Lantern suit, and then plays back a message that is riddled with errors from both Hal and Sinestro. And basically they're dueling like monologues over each other, but they all basically come to the same thing of, don't trust anybody, especially not the Guardians. The Guardians are going to try to kill you. You might be able to trust Arkillo, you might be able to trust Carol Ferris, but besides that, stop the Guardians. That is your primary objective. So then the message stops, and the ring, like the suit, disappears off him, and he just goes wandering through the Keys until he comes to a highway. And when he gets there, he sees a cop car coming up, and he's like, oh geez, all right, Ring, I gotta get out of here. And the Ring again gets him into a full suit and zooms him up out of the area. But they cops see the light and call it in. So then we get to Cuba again, where there was that agent named Fed last issue who was interrogating Simon, but really didn't wanna, because he's a good guy like that. And he's like, you know what? I think I'm gonna retire because I almost broke all of my moral compasses in there. So I'm just gonna go. But then he gets a call from Amanda Waller saying, hey, we've got him. We've got a track on him. We got a call from some guys down in Florida. If we get him, we're going to use the big guns to stun him, but we're going to need you to talk him down. So get your ass up here. And we see that he's made his way back home to Dearborn, Michigan. And his sister's being dropped off by their father at her work, which is apparently, it's literally a store that says Secretary of State, which I assume means it's like a government thing, but I don't think it's a storefront that actually says Secretary of State. So anyway, he's just like, yay, look, ever since your brother got arrested on terrorism charges, our entire family has been looked down on because we're all just as guilty as he is. And his sister Sierra's like, yeah, well, he's not guilty, so no big deal. He'll get back one day. This will all just be a memory at some point. So makes her way inside. And as soon as she does, she's immediately being stared down by all the people inside. She's called to her boss's office, and the boss is like, hey, while this is ongoing, people are a little bit scared for their safety, so how about you head home until I give you a call, okay? Get out. So she's upset by that, obviously, but then Simon comes up to her and gets her in an alleyway, and she's like, hey, look, did you get my message? I didn't do it on purpose. I genuinely didn't know there was a bomb in the back of that van. And tries to explain a little bit of the ring and whatnot. And basically, she doesn't care about the ring. She's just like, everything you're doing is making things worse. You are keeping yourself distant from this family, and now you're, even when you're doing this stuff, because you're distant, like, you think it helps, but it doesn't. Like, we're still just as caught up in this as you are. Like, I don't, he's taking all the blame that Sierra's husband, I guess, died because of him. Again, they haven't directly said that. It looks like he's at least in a coma, but regardless, she's just like, no, look, it has nothing to do with that. Like, you need to be the one that makes this okay, and you need to be around us, okay? Like, you keeping your, like, it's not helping anything. And he's like, okay, look, just meet me up where we used to hang out as kids, up on the roof of this building, okay? You have your job at the Secretary of State. You can help me here. We can get some strings pulled. So she's like, fine, whatever, I'll help. So at this point, we get the little bit that ties into Rise of the Third Army. Some truck drivers are driving down the road. They're talking about, on the news, there's an explosion at Gitmo and whatnot. And he's like, oh, that's crazy. There's a lot of crazy stuff in the world. And then all of a sudden, the weird alien-looking things, the Third Army guys, pop out of the bushes. They bust through the windshield of the truck and assimilate them into the Third Army. And they register that there is another Green Lantern energy on the planet, so they have to go out and get it in the name of the Guardians. So then that night, Simon heads up to the roof where he and his sister would like hide out whenever they were getting attacked or whatever. And apparently there's a security camera up here, so Simon has the Ring put on a mask, and now we get his full outfit that we've seen him in on the cover. And it turns out that while he's waiting for his sister, he's not alone, because the Justice League shows up and attacks him and says, like, you're in a lot of trouble, dude. So yeah, next issue, Simon versus the Justice League. I'm interested. I'm interested in Simon's story, but this doesn't feel like part one of the Third Army stuff. This feels unrelated, and they're just like building up the Third Army stuff in the background. I'm sure eventually we'll tie it all together, but for right now, it does just feel completely separate. Like, this doesn't feel appropriate to have the Third Army like event logo on it, if that makes any sense. This just feels like a different story that is so loosely tied in, but it's like part one of the Green Lanterns part. So if I take it on just the story itself, it's a fine story. It's setting things up still. It's introducing us to more characters in Simon's life. It's getting through like what he knows, what he doesn't know, what he believes. It's just set up. It's not bad. But in terms of this is part one of like the event, if you ignore the prologue stuff, like it's kind of weak. So overall, I'm going to say this one's like a 6.5. Again, I don't dislike the characters. I don't dislike any of that. But it's just not part one of the event worthy. So I'm going to dock a point or two off of it because of that. If it was just standing on its own, it'd probably like at least a 7. Probably 7.5. But it's 6.5 because being the start of an event comes with some certain connotations. And this just didn't live up to that.